Okay, so I have pinned the uh, sharing link for the lecture on the Google Meets chat box. So you can follow with the lecture with my slides there. Everyone okay? Shall we start the lecture with do we have an assigned prayer leader this afternoon? At the very least, rinig ba ako guys? Hello?
Okay, then.
Okay, sige.
Okay, so let us put ourselves in the presence of the Lord, and the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together today. We ask that you bless this scripture session. This is where focus on understanding. May our minds be open to learning and our hearts be guided with compassion so that what we learn today will be used in service of others. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Okay, so good afternoon. We have a lecture on oxidative phosphorylation and the electron transport chain. I'm not sure if you've tackled this already with Dr. Portoso. As she has discussed earlier, the ATP production for through the TCA cycle. But let's run down our learning objectives for this afternoon. So by the end of the carbohydrates module, we expect that we'll be able to explain the structural organization of the electron transport chain within the mitochondria, and to describe the redox reactions occurring along the respiratory chain, discuss the coupling effect of respiration with oxidative phosphorylation, correlate the chemiosmotic theory to the promotion and regulation of respiration and oxidative phosphorylation, and to relate the mechanisms of toxins to its effect in respiration and oxidative phosphorylation. So, context muna. Uh, as you have seen with Dr. Pertoso's lecture earlier, cells need energy in the form of ATP. Simply, simple to understand na yan. Okay? And and then energy that we acquire that energy from food in the form of carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. This is ingestion. The chemical energy from food is unlocked through various processes and reactions in the body, as you've seen already with glycolysis, fatty acid oxidation, amino acid catabolism, TCA, and all processes that lead to that is digestion and absorption. And all the energy that is within that food, within their double bonds, within their glucose, within their lipids, they are released from carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids into uh, they are captured and stored in general forms we have in ATP, NADH, and FADH2. So ATP, obviously, the cells can use that immediately. You have your reducing agents, NADH and FADH2, which hold a lot of energy, but cells cannot use that. So what we have to do is all non-ATP stores will be used to provide energy to generate ATP. That is simply what the electron transport chain is doing. So overview. Electron transport chain is a sequence with O2 with oxygen gas that forms a proton gradient across a membrane. And this proton gradient drives the generation of ATP through a process known as oxidative phosphorylation. Okay. Remember our biological membranes lecture. So we have four complexes. These are all integral proteins. So they all transverse or at least interject within the membrane. They are immobile. I mean, they are immobile, meaning that they cannot move out of the inner membrane. And they act in sync and in sequence. Okay. So first, let's start with a little anatomy. Within the mitochondria, there is what we call a double membrane structure. The cytoplasm is what is occurring outside of the mitochondria. So out here, that this is the cytoplasm. Okay? The outer membrane separates the inside of the mitochondria from the cytoplasm. The membrane, again, double lipid bilayer. Between the outer membrane and in the inner side is an intermembrane space. Basically, a region in between an outer membrane and an inner membrane. The inner membrane has much more folds, um, allowing a lot of surface area for the inner membrane. And inside that inner membrane is what we call the mitochondrial matrix. Mitochondrial matrix is where the reactions typically inside or the matrix side of mitochondrial reactions occur, particularly the Krebs or the TCA cycle. Okay, so the TCA occurs inside the mitochondrial matrix, but the TCA happens on in the level of the inner membrane and the intermembrane space. Okay, so again, when we're talking about the electron transport chain, the major components exist within the inner mitochondrial membrane. You have the enzymes of the respiratory chain. So this is complexes 1 to 4. ATP synthase, also known as complex 5. Coenzyme Q, or a protein known as ubiquitin, which is a protein that is very mobile, moves within and around the inner membrane. And another coenzyme called cytochrome C, which exists inside the inner membrane. So integral proteins ang complexes 1 to 5. Cyto coenzyme Q and cytochrome C are mobile proteins within the inner membrane. Okay? So again, what is the electron transport chain? Electron transport chain is a sequence of enzymes in inner mitochondrial membrane that transports reducing equivalents. The reducing equivalents that we have important is NADH and FADH2. All of the enzymes that we have between complex 1 to 4 are oxidoreductases, meaning they catalyze oxidation, reduction, or redox reactions. So they transfer electrons between intermediates. Intermediates mo is CoQ, coenzyme Q, ubiquitin, and cytochrome C. While complex 4 transfers those electrons to the final electron acceptor in oxygen gas. So 90 to 95% of all oxygen that we breathe enters into the cells is used in the electron transport chain. Okay. So the proteins, again, integral proteins embedded within the intermitochondrial membrane, and they direct a sequence of redox reactions in increasing redox potential, or the substance's tendency to gain electrons. So here's table 12.1. You will see this in Harper. You can see your NADH here. So NADH is negative 32. As it goes down towards its final acceptor in oxygen, the redox potential increases. So what does that mean? For every step of the reaction, each product of each reaction is more attracted to electrons in the previous. So, in terms of energetics, the reaction wants to go forward. Okay? Any questions with regards to redox potential? Okay. Kung wala. The contents of these respiratory chain proteins. These are proteins, but they are also enzymes. Okay? Again, integral proteins within the membrane can function as channels, transports, or enzymes. So for respiratory chain proteins complexes 1 to 4, they are enzymes. Take note for complexes 1 and 2. They contain chains of flavoproteins. Example here is FMN or flavin mononucleotide and FAD, flavin adenine dinucleotide. They are important parts within the mitochondria that require the intake of a vitamin that we eat known as riboflavin. So if you are deficient in riboflavin, you have a decrease in the potential to generate energy within your mitochondria. Okay? So what do these flavoproteins do? They are able to receive electrons by their capacity to be reduced. You can see here in the screen, first we have an oxidized FAD with the ability to receive, sorry, here we have reduced flavin with the ability to, with that has had electrons. Where in the process do we have FADH2? Diniscuss kanina. Okay. Kunin nyo na lang sa notes kanina. Okay? So from FADH2, they have the capacity to hold electrons. They can lose their electrons, becoming oxidized to become a semiquinone, which is an intermediate that holds 1, or FADH1. It can only exist within the enzyme before it can be fully oxidized to FAD. Okay? So remember, when it comes to complex 1 and 2, they contain flavoproteins that receive electrons, up to 2 per molecule. Next, another set of proteins called iron sulfur proteins, or FES, that you can find within complexes 1, 2, and 3. So these are iron sulfur proteins. They are molecules with atom ions linked to sulfur and or cysteine. They can exist in a single ferrous form, a double ferrous form, or a quadriferous form. Single, double, quadriferous form. What's important about them? They facilitate single electron transfers. How? It is by the conformational change of the of the protein that allows iron in the ferrous form to become ferric form. So Fe2 plus becomes Fe3 plus, and or in the reverse when it's losing that electron. Okay? So ilang kayang kargahin ang flavoprotein? Ilang electrons kaya? Two electrons. Ang iron sulfur, single electron transfers. Okay? So in combination with that, know that 1 and 2 have both your flavoproteins and your iron sulfur proteins. And complex 3 has your iron sulfur proteins. So when your flavoproteins receive 2 electrons, they can then pass those electrons one at a time to chains of iron sulfur regions in increasing redox potential. So nagpa-pass the message sila. Okay? I want you to imagine that the FADH receives FADH receives 2 electrons, passes it one at a time to a single iron sulfur region. That iron sulfur region passes it on to the next one, which passes it on to the next, to the next, to the next. Okay? And why does it pass on to the next? Because the next one in line has greater redox potential than the previous. So there's a higher affinity to the electron from the a succeeding one than the previous. Okay? So 1 and 2 can pass it to coenzyme Q. Complex 3 passes it to cytochrome C. Let's discuss that. So what is the sequence of the electron transport chain? We have first your reducing equivalents coming from the citric acid cycle. The citric acid cycle, remember, happens in the mitochondrial matrix. So from the matrix, they just go towards the inner membrane. Within your citric acid cycle, how many NADH is formed per cycle? Okay, kunin nyo lang sa notes kanina. How many FAD is acquired in the cycle? Sige, kunin nyo lang sa notes. Okay? So the reducing equivalents in sequence number 2 now react with in oxidized, transferring the electrons from NADH, will lose electrons. It will be transferred by complex 1 into coenzyme Q. FADH reacts with complex 2, transfers it also to coenzyme Q. Third in the sequence is that the reduced coenzyme Q will be oxidized by complex 3. It will take the electrons, passes it on to another protein known as cytochrome C. So reduced coenzyme Q becomes oxidized, cytochrome C becomes reduced. Next, reduced cytochrome C will become oxidized by complex 4. And to get those electrons and will transfer it to your inhaled oxygen. The inhaled oxygen would react with the ions within the matrix to form H2O. So we have water or water vapor as your end product. Your final receiver for electrons in the electrotransport chain is oxygen gas or O2. Sige. So let's go through the complexes one by one. Complex 1 is known as NADH, coenzyme Q oxidoreductase. So sa pangalan pa lang, it explains what it does. It will oxidize the first and reduce the second. Okay? So complex 1 will oxidize NADH and reduce CoQ to CoQH2. The total reaction you will see here is NADH plus coenzyme Q plus 5 hydrogen ions from the matrix is converted to NAD plus CoQ reduced plus 4 hydrogen ions in the intermembrane space. Okay? Complex 2, succinate CoQ oxidoreductase, otherwise known as succinate dehydrogenase. So saan nyo narinig kanina ang succinate dehydrogenase? Ano ang ginagawa ni succinate dehydrogenase outside of the electron transport chain? Nasa slide na guys. Okay.
Kino-convert po si succinate to fumarate.
Okay. Yan. So within the tricarboxylic acid cycle, the Krebs cycle, the citric acid cycle, ang ginagawa ni succinate CoQ oxidoreductase, otherwise known as succinate dehydrogenase, is that it oxidizes succinate and becomes fumarate to become fumarate. It will reduce FAD to FADH2. Okay? So diyan ang gagaling ang FADH within the mitochondrial matrix. So everything within the TCA happens within the mitochondrial matrix except for succinate dehydrogenase / succinate CoQ oxidoreductase / complex 2. Pag nagbe-build up na ang succinate, after succinyl CoA, magiging succinate. Within the mitochondrial matrix, lalapit pa yan into the membrane. Because that's where complex 2 fully converts succinate to fumarate and reduces FAD to FADH2. Pag lumayo na ang fumarate, complex 2 then, it's a multi-step enzyme. will now oxidize your FADH2 back to FAD. So yung FAD, babalik na yan sa Krebs to be ready to receive another succinate. But the electrons from FADH2 is now transferred to CoQ, which becomes CoQH2 or reduced CoQ. Okay? Notice, important to note, complex 2 does not translocate hydrogen from the matrix. So the total reaction is succinate plus FAD turns to fumarate plus FADH2. In the presence of CoQ, FAD turns to FAD plus CoQH2. So what is common? What is the common intermediate following complex 1 and complex 2? Okay. Next. Complex 3 is CoQ cytochrome C oxidoreductase. It oxidizes CoQH2 back into CoQ. And then it reduces 2 molecules of cytochrome C. Complex 3 translocates 4 hydrogen ions into the intermembrane space. 2 coming from CoQH2 and 2 coming from the matrix. Okay? So the total reaction, you have a single CoQH2 has to react with 2 cytochrome C in the presence of complex 3 plus 2 hydrogen coming from the matrix. Will become a single CoQ oxidized, 2 reduced cytochrome C, and then 4 hydrogen ions translocated into the intermembrane space. Last within the chain is complex 4. So it will oxidize cytochrome C and reduces oxygen into 2 molecules of water. The electrons received from reduced cytochrome C is received in this following order. You have a copper protein, copper A, is passed to heme, is passed to heme A3, is passed back to a copper protein B, is passed again to heme A3 before the final receiver in oxygen. I'm not requiring you to memorize this. I'm just showing you that complex 4 is also a multi-step enzyme. What it's different from the rest is that it requires a copper enzyme, a copper ion. So for complex 4, it takes also 4 hydrogen ions from the matrix, 2 attaches to oxygen, and then 2 hydrogen is translocated into the intermembrane space. So the total reaction is 2 cytochrome C reduced plus half of an oxygen plus 4 hydrogen ions from the matrix becomes 2 cytochrome C oxidized plus 1 H2O plus 2 translocated into the intermembrane space. So that is the process where an electron or a set of electrons are transferred from NADH or FADH2 through three different enzymes and two intermediates. The first one being coenzyme Q, the second one being cytochrome C. Finally, being received by oxygen gas to become H2O. So what's the point in all that? Let's check the two chains that we have. Complex 134 translocates 10 hydrogen ions into the intermembrane space per molecule NADH. So the total reaction, if you combine all the reactions that I showed you earlier, from again complex 1, 3, and 4, you translocate 10 hydrogen ions per molecule NADH. Total reaction is NADH plus 1/2 of an oxygen molecule plus 11 hydrogen ions from the matrix is transferred to NAD plus H2O plus 10 hydrogen ions. Balance ba? 11 from the matrix plus 1 hydrogen from NADH. So 12 from the previous reaction. 10 enters the intermembrane space, 2 hydrogen attached to oxygen gas. So that is your total reaction for complex 134. NADH produces 10 hydrogen translocations. Next, the other one is complex 234. So you translocate 6 ions because what I said earlier, complex 2 does not translocate hydrogen. So you have your FADH2 plus half an oxygen plus 6 from the matrix is simply transferred into the intermembrane space. Okay? Balance ba? 6 from the matrix, 2 from FADH, 6 into the intermembrane space, 2 in water. So balance ang stoichiometry. Okay? What is important is there is translocation of hydrogen into the intermembrane space. Okay? So, nagigets na yung picture na to. You have translocation of hydrogen. Okay. So you have translocation of hydrogen from complexes 1, 3, and 4. 4 plus 4 plus 2 is equal to 10 per NADH. If you go through FADH, so if you're going through NADH, you have 4 plus 2. So 10 ang total for NADH. If you're doing FADH, no translocation ang complex 2, so you only have 4 plus 2. Total is 6. Why is that important? So you have the electron transport chain done. The last one is complex 5, otherwise known as ATP synthase. And that's where all the transfer of the hydrogen from the mitochondrial matrix to the intermembrane space is paid off. So first, let us discuss what is oxidative phosphorylation. You have heard of substrate level phosphorylation that occurs within glycolysis, where you spend 2 ATP to generate 4 ATP. You call that substrate level phosphorylation because you're taking inorganic phosphate, and through the energy released in a reaction, um, combines phosphate or inorganic phosphate to ADP in a downstream reaction to form ATP. Again, the phosphorylation of substrate level phosphorylation occurs through a downward reaction, a down hill reaction where the energy is able to combine inorganic phosphate to ADP, adenosine diphosphate, to become ATP. You have that in glycolysis, and you have that in the generation of GTP from GDP and inorganic phosphate, literally in the slide we had earlier with Dr. Raportoso. Okay, so that is substrate level phosphorylation. When you're talking about oxidative phosphorylation, you have to involve oxygen. So this is the generation of ATP, which is an endergonic reaction, and a, a reaction that requires energy through the transfer of electrons and the reduction of oxygen, which is exergonic. So this occurs, oxidative phosphorylation only occurs in the inner mitochondrial membrane. Oxygen is your final electron acceptor, and that oxidative phosphorylation is dependent on the availability of O2 and of enzymatic activity of your electron transport chain. So let's talk about ATP synthase, also known as complex 5. It is, again, an integral protein of the inner membrane, and its function, as the name says, is to synthesize ATP in the presence of ADP and inorganic phosphate. So hindi siya pwedeng gumawa ng ATP ng walang building blocks. Okay? So ATP synthase will work in the presence of ADP and inorganic phosphate. So what does that mean? What is the state of the cell if there is presence of ADP? Wait lang, nawala ang screen ko. Okay, sorry. So again, what does it mean within the mitochondria or even within the cell if there is the presence of ADP? When is ADP present within a cell in high concentrations? Tanungin ko na lang sa exam. Okay. So ATP synthase, it has two major regions. Region F0 functions as a channel for hydrogen ions. So again, balik tayo sa ating lecture on um, biologic membranes and transport systems. So when you have a protein that is a channel for hydrogen ions, it does not bind with its substrate, it does not bind with hydrogen, it does not have major conformational changes, it allows for the ions to pass through, but it is also gated. Okay, so we have the other region of ATP synthase or complex 5, the F1 complex that projects into the matrix, that has the ability to combine ADP and phosphate. We have a gamma subunit that runs between region F0 and F1. You see in the picture here, it's what is being pointed as the rod. And that gamma subunit has the ability to rotate as hydrogen ions flow through the hydrogen channel in F0. And as the gamma subunit rotates, it allows conformational change of region F1 as it binds to ADP to connect it to inorganic phosphate to form ATP. So that is how ATP synthase works. It needs region 0 to function as a channel for hydrogen ions. It needs the gamma subunit to rotate as the ions flow. And it needs an intact F1 complex to attach to ADP and in turn phosphorylate it to ATP as the gamma subunit rotates. So it's like an engine na umiikot, or it's like a hydroelectric plant where falling water forces the rotation of a motor to generate electricity. In the same manner that flowing hydrogen ions from a region of high concentration, because we are pushing hydrogen ions from the matrix to the intermembrane space, for every NADH or FADH2 translocated. So what complexes 1 to 4 do is load hydrogen ions from the matrix to the intermembrane space. And that mismatch, that proton gradient, because you are moving hydrogen ions across a membrane that hydrogen cannot pass through. So it becomes a lot more positive on the intermembrane space that has a lot of protons, that has a lot of hydrogen, thus making the inner mitochondrial matrix negative. So what is the tendency of hydrogen to flow from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration? And that flow of hydrogen ions is the energy that drives ATP synthase or complex 5 to phosphorylate ADP to become ATP. So when we're talking about respiration, we're talking about complexes 1 to 4. And we're talking about oxidative phosphorylation, that is complex 5. Okay? So that is discussed in what we call the chemiosmotic theory. So nakita nyo kanina sa learning objectives. I would want you guys to understand or to have a grasp of what it is. In the book, it is the oxidation of components in the respiratory chain and the generation of ATP. So respiration, complexes 1 to 4. The generation of ATP is complex 5, are coupled by the proton gradient across the inner mitochondrial membrane. So that the proton motive force, the movement of protons or hydrogen ions from an area of high concentration down to the lower concentration, causes an electrochemical potential difference. May gradient that drives the ATP synthesis. So bullet point natin. Respiratory chain or 1 to 4 is coupled with 5 or ATP synthesis. You generate a proton gradient in respiration by the translocation of hydrogen ions from the matrix into the intermembrane space. And then the electrochemical potential difference creates a proton motive force from a higher concentration within the membrane towards the low concentration in the matrix through a channel which is ATP synthase. So kanina, every mole of NADH utilized within the 1, 3, 4 chain, because NADH is used in the 1, 3, 4 chain, generates 2.5 mole of ATP per 0.5 mole of oxygen consumed. And for every mole of FADH utilized in the, this is 2, 3, 4 chain, 1.5 is generated per 0.5 mole of oxygen. Or in other words, 0.5 ATP is generated per 2 hydrogen translocated. Baka mas madali yan. So, if we're looking at the complex 1, 3, 4 chain, 1, 3, 4. So, NADH ang gamit natin. We move 11 into the matrix, from the matrix, 10 into the intermembrane space. Kasi yung isa went here into water. So, 10 ang nilipat natin to the intermembrane space. Since 0.5 ATP is generated per 2 translocated, 10 divided by 5, 10 divided by 2 hydrogen is 5. 5 times 0.5 ATP generated is 2.5. Baka mas madali yan. So complex 2, you have only 6 because complex 2 does not translocate hydrogen. You only have 6 entering the intermembrane space, kaya 1.5 lang ATP. Easier to understand ba why NADH generates 2.5 while FADH2 only generates 1.5? Okay? So what do we mean by the coupling of oxidation and phosphorylation? The complexes of 1 to 4 are regulated by the actions of 5 and vice versa. Meaning, oxidation of NADH and FADH2, so the actions of 1 to 4, will not occur in the absence of ADP. So ito yung sagot kanina. In the absence of ADP, the cell has a lot of ATP. The cell does not need more energy because maraming ATP ang cell. So what does that mean if the cell does not have ATP? Means maraming ADP. If the cell has a lot of ADP, that means the cell is at work. It could be a cardiac cell that is pumping blood. It could be a muscle cell that is working out. It could be a liver cell that is filtering. It could be a brain cell that is thinking. Because those cells typically use a lot of ATP. That means if the cell has no ATP, ibig sabihin maraming ADP. So if it's a skeletal muscle at rest, you would expect more ATP, less ADP. So that means the muscle cell at rest will not have to burn NADH and FADH2. Okay? Understood ang coupling. Kung maraming ATP, hindi kailangan gumalaw ng 5, hindi gagalaw din ng 1 to 4. If the cell is at work, if the cell is using a lot of energy, it will use up the ATP and in the use of ATP will have a lot of ADP. In the presence of a lot of ADP, in the mitochondria, that's the cell says, okay, I'm working. I need to oxidize my NADH and FADH2. So there it is a regulation system. It becomes controlled and gradual. The cell will only eat if it needs energy. It will not lamon even when it's busog. Okay? Why is that? Because if it is uncontrolled, if they are uncoupled and oxidation proceeds without phosphorylation, it will create such a high proton gradient. There is too much hydrogen in the intermembrane space and outside of the matrix. It will cause not just an electrochemical change, but a dramatic pH change, because hydrogen is what determines pH, concentration of hydrogen. That differential can damage the cell. It will generate too much free energy, and that free energy is liberated as heat. Masusunog ang cell. But note, this is when it's uncoupled. There is always a small amount of free energy liberated as heat, which is normal to the cell, because the cells need also to generate heat to survive. That is how we maintain your 37 normal body temperature. Okay? So that is the essentiality of the coupling mechanism. You have your strong electrochemical gradient across the membranes that inhibit the transport also of NADH2 and NADH and FADH2 to the inner membrane. So if there's already a strong gradient, mataas na ang hydrogen concentration across the membrane, NADH and FADH2 will not be transported in. And the gradient, of course, decreases as hydrogen flows through the ATP synthase. So next, we talk about inhibitors and toxins. So we have your clinical scenarios now. Or poisons, sorry. So poisons can inhibit the respiratory chain. We have 3 general forms of poisons. Inhibitors of the respiratory chain, so it will stop complexes 1 to 4. Inhibitors of oxidative phosphorylation, meaning it will inhibit ATP synthase or complex 5. Or it's an uncoupler of the oxidative phosphorylation, meaning it removes the coupling mechanism of 1 to 4 and 5. Examples of these in terms of the first category. Barbiturates inhibit the transfer of electrons in complex 1 from iron sulfur proteins to coenzyme Q. Antimycin and dimercaprol inhibit electron transfer at the level of complex 3. And take note of this. Carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and cyanide. They inhibit electron transfer at complex 4, which is one of the most essential because this is what stops our ability to properly transfer out oxygen. So these are the things that stop respiration at a near permanent level because these carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and cyanide have a much higher affinity to complex 4 than oxygen, meaning oxygen is not detached anymore. Okay? Please take note of these three. Carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, and cyanide inhibit electron transfer at complex 4. We have malonate, which is a competitive inhibitor of complex 2. So obviously, if you have these forms of inhibitors present, you cannot form a proper proton gradient. You cannot transfer enough hydrogen into the intermitochondrial space, intermembrane space. Next type, you have inhibitors of oxidative phosphorylation. Actractyloside inhibits the transfer of ADP into and ATP out of the mitochondrion. Of course, hindi lang yung mitochondria yung gumagamit ng ATP. So, actractyloside will starve the cell of energy because the ATP cannot exit the mitochondria. So, paano na yung nucleus, yung cytoplasm, yung endoplasmic reticulum gagamit ng ATP? Oligomycin, which is an antibiotic, actually, blocks the protein channel through ATP synthase. So, ibabara mo yung channel. The hydrogen ions cannot pass through and you cannot form ATP. Last, you have your uncouplers for oxidative phosphorylation. When you uncouple oxidative phosphorylation from respiration, you cause uncontrolled reduction of oxygen without regulation of ATP. So regardless of the concentration of ATP and ADP, complexes 1 to 4 will just continuously reduce agents up till it uses up all of its NADH and FADH. How does that happen? 2,4-dinitrophenol increases the permeability of the inner membrane to protons. So when the membrane is exposed to dinitrophenol, protons don't even have to go through complex 5 anymore. It will pass through the membrane straight through the lipid bilayer. So you do not produce ATP as hydrogen passes through. Okay? Next is something called thermogenin, or uncoupling protein number 1. I want to make this clear that this is a physiologic uncoupler. That means it's not pathologic. It is present in the brown adipose tissue of newborns. So thermogenin acts like ATP synthase or complex 5. That it's a proton channel, but it does not provide ATP. It does not produce ATP. Why does this happen? Is because newborns are unthermoregulated. They do not have the ability to control their body temperature. So this is brown adipose tissue. In brown adipose tissue, it is present in newborns to literally allow itself to be burnt out. That's why you have babies that are very chubby when they're born. That is not permanent adipose tissue, it's brown adipose tissue. Over time, as they grow up, they will lose that because respiration in brown adipose tissue is uncontrolled and uncoupled. So that brown adipose tissue continues to work and burn itself out without producing ATP. And as it does that, it releases free energy not being used in ATP production. That free energy provides heat for the baby. Okay. So here is figure 13.9, also in Harper. You can see each negative line in red, how that blocks the each complex or each process within the electron transport chain. Okay. Last, I'm not sure kung napag-usapan niyo na when it means shuttles and transports. You have your glycerol 3-phosphate shuttle. So when is this used? Kanina we talked about it, diba? Muscle, it's in the muscle and in the brain. So you have cytosolic NADH, so cytosol, not inside the mitochondria. NADH within the cytosol cannot penetrate the mitochondrial membrane. So you have NADH from the cytosol. Where is this coming from? From glycolysis. Glycolysis happens outside the mitochondria, not inside. So your cytosolic NADH from glycolysis cannot penetrate the mitochondrial membrane. So it enters, it doesn't even enter, but rather it transfers its electron to dihydroxyacetone phosphate, DHAP, reduces it to, oxidizes it to glycerol 3-phosphate. Glycerol 3-phosphate can cross the membrane and to enter the mitochondria. So glycerol 3-phosphate will then oxidize back to, is reduced back to DHAP. But the electrons coming from NADH is transferred instead to FADH2. So inside the muscles and the brain, the NADH that comes from the glycolysis, it enters into the electron transport chain as FADH. So the yield is 1.5 moles of ATP rather than 2.5. Okay, and this happens twice because for every um, molecule of glucose, every mole of glucose, there are 2 NADH produced. That is why there is 2 less ATP produced in muscles and in the brain as compared to what we use for the malate shuffle, malate aspartate shuffle. So here is the sequence. You can read there that cytosolic NADH in the liver, kidneys, and heart oxidized back to NAD, while oxaloacetate is reduced to make malate. Malate is transported inward via malate alpha-ketoglutarate antiporter. So again, balik tayo sa membrane proteins. When we mean antiporter, papasok lang ang malate kung may lalabas na alpha-ketoglutarate. Okay? We'll get to the alpha-ketoglutarate in a bit. So now that the malate has entered into the mitochondria, it will reduce back, it's oxidized back into oxaloacetate. there is now NAD inside the mitochondria, which reduces to NADH. That NADH enters complex 1, not complex 2. So yung malate na naging oxaloacetate will transaminate inside the mitochondria with glutamate to form alpha-ketoglutarate and aspartic acid or aspartate. So yan yung alpha-ketoglutarate na kailangan lumabas within the malate alpha-ketoglutarate antiporter. There's another enzyme, protein, that is called the glutamate aspartate antiporter. So the glutamate that is now the aspartic acid or aspartate inside now exits while you have glutamate from the outside antiporting in. The glutamate aspartate antiporter has a protons import, while the aspartate outside and the alpha-ketoglutarate go back to oxaloacetate and glutamate. Okay? So this is the figure na lang. CMDH is cytosolic malate dehydrogenase. MDH is mitochondrial malate dehydrogenase. This is cytosolic. Okay, sorry. Cytosolic malate dehydrogenase, mitochondrial malate dehydrogenase. Cytosolic aspartate aminotransferase, mitochondrial aspartate aminotransferase. This is your malate alpha-ketoglutarate antiport. This is your glutamate aspartate glutamate aspartate antiport with a protons import. Okay. That's it actually. So my references is chapter 13 and a bit of chapter 12 of Harper, 32nd edition. I do suggest you read them. You read both chapters. The chapter 12 is short. I will be taking my exam questions from this and from Harper. Okay. So do you have any questions? Okay. Has everyone received the file, the PDF of my lecture? Okay. If you have no questions, okay, class dismissed. If you do have questions, I will again post my email. Please send me a question through this email. Use this. Just add to your subject LCUP dash question. Okay. I have no questions. Class dismissed. Thank you. Hopefully, I was able to make the